You know, when you're working the dream, the struggle is oh so real. You have to be determined. You have to work hard. You need to be compassionate, set goals, and be timely. Stay focused and reach high. You need all this and the Lord to come together to make you a better person while you're working the dream.
Hi there, and welcome to Working the Dream. I'm your host, Eric Kelly, and today we're going to be examining the best way to write an effective resume. Now, most of you are going to do this at least a couple of times in your lifetime. In fact, there are stats out that say we change jobs every 4 to 7 years. Well, let's take a look at some hiring managers and their ideas about resumes.
Yeah, I would say proper contact information.
Do you see mistakes on that?
I do. I see emails only with no phone number, and I would really like to pick up the phone and call the applicant and have a discussion. So that would also delay the process of an applicant possibly getting hired.
I think that one of the things that we see are the formatting problems in resumes, and you want to make sure that you have a really well-formatted, clean resume for employers to look at, because they're only going to look at it for a few minutes, maybe even 30 seconds. They'll give each resume. I think that's probably the biggest issue we see.
One of my biggest pet peeves on a resume is when they put it in Comic Sans. So that's something you see a lot. So avoid putting your text into Comic Sans, and that could help you out a lot.
Now think about it. Millions of resumes going from one company to the next, from one resume aggregator to the next, to the company that you want to be hired in. There is so much energy around resumes. We want to make sure that you get it right. Now let's check on our friend Ron. Ron is building his resume, and he's educated, he's gifted, he's enthusiastic. He's looking forward to building a strong career, but he's struggling on how he can get his prospective employers to see how good he's actually going to be, why he's going to be an incredible asset to their organization. So let's watch and see how he handles it.
Looking for someone who understands how to use the Microsoft Office suite? Check. I can do that. They want someone who understands business analytics? Check. I definitely got that. They want someone that has a basic business accounting skills? Oh, I'm great with numbers. Check. I definitely got that covered. They're looking for someone who could do forecasting. I've had 2 courses in business forecasting. Check. Wow, this is a pretty good job fit. Most of the stuff they're looking for I can do pretty well. Now let me make sure that my resume shows them the same thing. I'm about to get paid. I am about to get paid and pay some of these bills that have been piling up. Let me call the prophet and make sure I'm on the right path.
Okay, now some of you out there may be contemplating the best way to write a resume. Now, you want to be sure that your prospective employer knows about all of the good things that you know and can do, all the good things you've done. Now, while this is partially true, the true secret to resume success is to match your resume to the specific things that the employer is looking for. Now, today, we're going to show you how to write a resume that gets the attention of the recruiter or prospective hiring manager in the companies that you want to work for. We're going to make sure that you can do it right. Now, let me give you some insight into recruiting and hiring managers. They have an incredible task. It's daunting. They've got to review hundreds, if not thousands of resumes, sometimes for one particular job. Now, here's the process. Follow this. Resume, phone screen, interview. Once again, resume to the phone screen to the interview. So these companies have thousands and thousands of resumes coming in. There's no way they can spend time interviewing all those people. So they look through the resumes to see if they're up to snuff, and then they have a phone screen. Then they talk to those hundreds of people on the phone screens, and they narrow those down to actual job interviews, face-to-face interviews. Now, your job is to get a phone screen call and impress the recruiter to give you a chance at an actual face-to-face interview. So here's how it's done. Reread the job posting. Make sure there's an example of each job requirement on your resume. For instance, let's say on the job posting they say, must have 5 years accounting experience. You need to be able to say on your resume, I've had 5 years accounting experience. If their job posting says, must be certified in Microsoft Office, you need to be able to show on your resume that you are certified in Microsoft Office. Now, Ron is going to work through building his resume. He's also going to touch base with a mentor, a smart guy, to give him a few tips. Let's see what happens. Hello.
Prophet? Is this you?
Brilliant deductive reasoning, sir. You called me. What can I help you with?
Well, I found this job that I think I would enjoy doing, but I need help creating a resume for it. How do I do it?
Sure. First of all, you need to look at the job description and look at what they say are the job requirements and duties. Are these things you really want to do and would enjoy doing every day?
I think so.
Okay, well, if we've got that, now you need to show that you are everything they are looking for. I want you to look at the job requirements again. Can you give an example of you doing each one of these in your resume?
I think I can.
Okay, now it's time to write it. When you write it, next to each accomplishment, write a business impact statement or a so what statement. Kind of goes like this. Instead of saying, designed a software program for accounting, that has no weight to it, say, designed a software program for accounting that saved the company $400,000 annually. So make sure that you write one of those types of statements next to every one of your accomplishments on your resume.
Got it, Mr. Prophet. What else can I do?
You have spell check?
Yes.
Use it. There is nothing that will get your resume moved to the no pile faster than bad spelling and bad grammar. Sadly, resumes have been giving HR departments and recruiters joy and entertainment for a long time now. Let's see. Do you have anybody that can proofread your resume?
I think so, yes.
Well, if you do, make sure you choose someone who's a professional, someone that might be able to even act as coach or mentor later on. Bribe them, give them lunch, event tickets, whatever. But you want to make sure that a professional in that area would think that your resume projects a candidate that's worth interviewing. Got that?
Got it, Mr. Prophet. Any other advice?
All right. I don't think so right now, my friend. I believe that you can be well on your way after this. Call me back when you get called in for the interview. I have a feeling that you're going to be very successful. This is Prophet Motivational Hotline. Thank you for calling. Okay, are you ready for a couple of secrets? I'm going to share with you how recruiters sort resumes. Here it goes. They make 3 piles. The first pile is yes. They read it, they like it, they want a little bit more about this person that's applying. The second pile is maybe. Not quite sure. There were a couple of good things. A couple of things not too sure about. The third pile is no. Whatever they saw, we don't want to talk to them. Now, shorter is better. War and Peace. is not appreciated by recruiters. If it's too long, they're going to put it down and go to the next resume. I submit 1 page or as close to 1 page as possible. Now remember, they're sorting all the time. And all the things that they find that don't work, all the things that they think tell them about you in the resume that they don't like, they call them knockout points. And as they're sorting through, it becomes a funnel, and they'll look at one and move on. They don't spend time looking at a resume once they see something that they don't like. Here's a couple of situations that recruiters kind of, they grimace at. Email address, partyman@gmail.com. I mean, what does that tell you about the person? It doesn't mean they wouldn't be a good worker, but if they didn't even take the time to change their email address to something a bit more businesslike, I don't know. Do I really want to hire Party Man to come work in my accounting department? How about this one? Diva@AT&T.net. I'm sure she is a complete joy to work with. Here's one, the Queen at AT&T.net. Yeah, and on the resume it says, I work well with others. The Queen, really? Big Daddy at Gmail. Is this size? This is ego? No idea. And recruiters are reading this and they're going, maybe I'll put this on the maybe pile or even the no pile. How about Pretty Girl at Hotmail? I mean, I'm looking for somebody to work in strategic planning. I could care less if she was pretty or not. Pretty Girl at Hotmail. What is that actually saying about me? Mr. Smooth. Yeah, that's a good one. I'm going to hire Mr. Smooth at a job here. Now, even though those things may seem minute, they may seem not really that important, as recruiters and hiring managers read their resumes, they basically are knockout points. They're things that make them put them in the no pile. Do you really want your resume put into the no pile? Here's one for you, grammar. I was working for one client. I came down the hall, I think I was in a meeting, and I heard in the boardroom on that floor, I heard peals of laughter. They were howling. And a good time at work is great at any company that you work for. So one of the folks that I did work for, she came out and I said, what are you guys doing in there? You're having way too much fun at work. She said, we were reviewing some resumes. Well, I knew they weren't the recruiting department. I said, why are you reviewing the resumes? Well, a couple of the recruiters had brought some resumes to the meeting and were reading them. Sadly, the resume that really sent them over the edge began with, I looking for a company. Now, I don't know if you know this, but people that write resumes poorly have been providing humor for human resources departments for many, many years. I looking for a company. What pile do you think the recruiter put that on? Yeah, it probably wasn't the, hey, we can't wait to interview this person on the phone. Another of the knockout points that keep resumes from being accepted is job hopping. Now, you look and see this person, they worked here 8 months. They worked here 6 months. They worked over here for a year. And you start to look at a 5-year employment history and notice that they've had 4 jobs. Now, does that mean absolutely that this person is not a good worker? No, it does not. However, the recruiter is looking at the job hopping and saying, if this person got here, how long would they stay? Because remember, if they don't stay long in that job, the recruiter has to do the same thing over again in a few months. So job hopping does not suit well. Now, someone asked, what is too much job hopping? And it varies by industry. But if you've been around and you've seen 3, 4, 5 years of experience and you're moving up, not too bad. However, if I look down and see months, or maybe only a year and a half, that may go to the maybe pile despite the rest of the qualifications being stellar. The next issue that can be a knockout point are gaps in employment. It doesn't necessarily mean that this person isn't a good employee. It simply means that where were you during this time? And yes, many times we make up the worst case scenarios in our minds. So be ready to explain that to a recruiter. Where were you for the last year and a half? Some of them are easily explainable. I went to make sure my kids were okay and in elementary school before I came back to work. Or I moved to another country, or there was military service. There's so many reasons to explain that, but be prepared to explain because recruiters are definitely looking at the gaps in service. Another factor that influences recruiters is layout. Now, bad layout versus good layout. Bad layout is if I read your resume and I've got to read through it to hop over this to that to kind of figure out what it is you're good at versus a good layout. Now, a good layout may be chronological. You may say, in 1995 I did this, in 2000 this happened, in 2005 I worked here, and you may show me kind of on a timeline what you've done. A lot of people that have been in the workplace for many years use an achievement layout, which pretty much says, I have this skill and it was manifested on this job, and here's where I was when that happened. I have this ability and it was manifested on this job, and here's what I did. Because the list would be rather long sometimes if they laid theirs out chronologically. However, whatever layout you choose to use, please make sure that it has a flow to it and it's easy for the reader to follow you. Now, the next area is where recruiters sometimes get some humor, sadly, at the expense of someone applying for a job, and that is dealing with past issues. Sometimes on an application, there'll be an area that says, why did you leave your last job? An interview will definitely ask you that. Why did you leave your last job? Okay, here's some that I've actually seen. I left my last job because my boss was an idiot, just like the two bosses I had before him. Now think about that a little bit. I left my last job because my boss was an idiot, like the two bosses before him. Now, the recruiter's reading that. And so far, you've got a pretty good track record of thinking your boss was an idiot. I saw one the other day that was absolutely hilarious. It said, I left my last job to make room for the vice president's girlfriend. Now, at that point, that person had gone over the edge and no recruiter is going to touch that. So when they're asking you why you left your last job, it's better to say, for more money. It's better to say, because I wanted to grow and develop. Any reason that's not negative, any negative phrase or words used to describe why you left is going to cause the recruiter some pause. Now, here's a tip. If your name is hard to pronounce, use initials. Someone said, Eric, that's not fair. And I hope that we took care of that in the first episode. Fair is a word we're going to get rid of. Because if your name is hard to pronounce, or if it's one that the recruiter may not feel familiar with, they could possibly take that and put it on the maybe pile or even the no pile. So at any point that you think maybe this could cause a recruiter a problem, simply use your initials. Is it fair? Who cares? We want to make sure that you get to the phone interview, and that's where it all pays off. Whatever you write, painstakingly proofread it. I mean, they've got spell check. They've got all sorts of apps and all sorts of software that'll help you make sure it follows the form. Use it. And also, be totally honest on your resume. Now, there's a reason for that. You're going to get up in the morning, have your devotion, ask God to bless you with the job that you're looking for, and submit a resume. Does God require you to be totally honest? Absolutely. God's not going to bless a lie, and you don't have to lie to get God's blessings. So be 100% honest on your resume. Never lie. A couple of things happen here. If you do lie on a resume and you're not honest, once you get that job, if they can determine that you were not truthful, they have the right to fire you because you got the job under false pretenses. Never, ever say something on a resume that's not true. You don't need to impress another human being for God to bless you. Now, if you know anyone that's a professional in the field that you want to be in, get them to review it for you. I mean, there's no way that you're going to know absolutely everything that's needed to get into a particular company without having some advice. So do your absolute best once that's done and leave it up to God. Let's listen to another hiring manager about what is important on a resume to them.
I see a lot of resumes with people explaining what their duties were at jobs. I could care less. I don't care what you did at your other jobs. What I care about are transferable skills. What did you learn? What are you bringing to my company from your past experience? I don't care where the experience came from. It could have been paid, unpaid, volunteer, babysitting, dog walking. I don't care. What is the skill that you're bringing to me rather than I made copies on a copier, I filled out this report. That doesn't really care. I don't care.
Now, we must always remember that while these are the technical things we need to do for our resumes to be accepted and looked at favorably, there's still one recruiter that's above all recruiters. There was a young lady that came up to me one time at church and she said, Mr. Kelly, I'm having some problems getting into the field that she was getting into. I read her resume. It was awesome. She was bright, she was talented, she was gifted, she had a graduate degree. There was no reason, based on who she was as a person, that she wouldn't be accepted in that industry. Somebody somewhere there should hire her. However, as I read her resume, it was just kind of a bland. I did this, I did that. So the tip that I was impressed to share with her is something I'll share with you. It's called the so what. So on the resume, she said, I managed whatever for this period of time. That is so bland to a recruiter. The recruiter is thinking, so what? Now, what we did was change her statements into power statements. The so what is the impact statement. I managed this and this fund for so many dollars, and here's a so what, that allowed our company to move from third to second place in the industry. Wow, does that get a recruiter's attention? So every entry on her resume, I believe she had coordinated something in one department, and the impact, when she shared it with me, was she had saved over $11,000 in a year. So we wrote it this way: coordinated the activities in this department and saved the organization $11,000 annually. Now think about a recruiter, think about a hiring manager, and at the list of everything that you've done, there's a so what statement, and it's a business impact. It almost doesn't matter what you've done. The impact statement says, I made the company money, I saved money, I made the organization work more efficiently. So when we're writing a resume, don't just write what you did, write the so what statement. Because of this, here's what the company was able to achieve. It was interesting. At the end of it, we chatted about it, we prayed over it. She took the resume and left. And I didn't see her for a few more weeks. When she came back, she was smiling. Obviously, I could figure from across the room she had gotten the job. And she said, they hired me, they put me in a good position, I'm happy, I'm blessed. Well, a couple of things had happened. First of all, she had prepared herself for advancement. She had prepared herself for success. Her resume was there. She just needed a little tweaking to get it where it needed to be. I want to share a personal story with you. I remember writing a resume and actually reading it and saying, there's no way they're going to hire me. I mean, I had the basics down, but I think I saw some gaps. I saw some things that, this will be a miracle if it gets through. But I really, really wanted this job. And over time, I got a little discouraged. But I remember opening up my promise book and reading, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Now, I don't have the power to do all things by myself, but the God that strengthens me does. And it's interestingly enough, I sent the resume in, and I was as surprised as anybody that I got a call back. But a manager called me and said, hey, Eric, we were reading your resume, and we want you to come in and talk. I'm like, really? Based on what I sent in? Absolutely. But I didn't discount the power of my higher power to get me to where I needed to be. It was interesting. We sat down, we talked, and got past the resume process into the phone call process and into the interview. And then I realized something. God wanted me to be where he was putting me. So even if it's not perfect, give God the responsibility and the weight of taking that resume and putting you where you need to be. The power is his. You do your absolute very best, and he will definitely cover the rest. None of us can do this on our own. So let's recap. You're going to follow the resume process so that you can get the phone call, so that you can get the interview, and all of this is going to be blessed and protected by your God. Now that's a powerful position to be in. So in the coming weeks, no matter what you have in front of you, no matter what jobs you're applying for, don't give up. Do not be discouraged. Write your resume out. Follow the tips that we've given you. And I'll tell you, you're going to love the results. Now, don't get disappointed if the resume you sent in wasn't accepted. That might not be where God wants you to be. He's got a special place for you. But if it is accepted, don't think just that you did it by yourself. Remember, there's a higher power. There's somebody above you who's protecting you, who's going to make sure that you fit in where you need to be. So I want you to be encouraged and kind of go for it. Don't slack up. Don't tell yourself you're not going to do well. Give it to God. Remember, always remember, you are powerless over what they can do to you, but they are powerless over what God will do for you. Until next time, keep working the dream. This is Eric Kelly.